All right, welcome to the reading for day 12 of We Beat the Streets. Just a little adjustment there. So we're going to pick up with the boys are in high school now, and they're now all at the same school. I have some pictures to show you. So remember how bad I am at this? The top one is Samson and Ramick. Ramick, Samson. The bottom one is George and Ramick. Hold on, Ramick's kind of hot. You know what I'm saying? So Samson. All right, George is fine too. Okay, so we're gonna pick up with them all being in, let's see, 10th grade, I think. I lost my place. Samson, 10th grade. Samson, George, and Ramick seemed to fall into each other's lives around the middle of 9th grade. Ramick had watched and admired George and Sam's friendship from a distance at first, but soon, through sports as well as academics, the three of them ended up hanging together on a regular basis. In 10th grade, they had forged a steady friendship. The classes were easy for the three of them, and they all enjoyed outsmarting the teachers and running the halls and taking every school rule to its limit. They found that they had much in common, telling jokes, talking trash, laughing at crazy things their teachers did, shooting hoops in the gym, and listening to rap music as loud as they could crank it up. Samson, for one, was glad to have someone to share his thoughts with. Late one night, the three of them sat on the empty bleachers at the school. The night was clear, the moon was bright, and talk came easy. "Think there's life on other planets?" George asked. Ramick laughed. "Well, if there is, I hope they got it together better than we do down here. Too much drugs and crime down here," Samson said. "Killing," George added. "And girls who won't go out with us," Ramick added with a chuckle. "Speak for yourself, man," Samson laughed. "I got more girls than I know what to do with, and I don't even have a car. Just me riding on my Nikes." "Why do you think kids at school think that making good grades is stupid?" "It's a school where everybody's supposed to be smart and do good." "I don't get it," Ramick said. "None of us really has a blueprint on how to make it," Samson said. "Right now, all I know is I can't let the streets swallow me. I have to get mine." "And what will that be?" Ramick asked. "I don't know yet, but I want more than I see every day on the block," Samson replied. "You got that right," Ramick said. "You ever have trouble telling your boys you don't want to do something?" George asked quietly. "All the time," the others answered together. "I ain't scared of them," Ramick said, "and I ain't scared of what they think of me, but you don't want to look scared or weak or stupid," George finished for him. "Yeah, something like that," Ramick agreed. "A lot of times it's just easier to go along than to say something," George added. "But I ain't backing down from nobody," Samson asserted loudly. "They push me too far and I'll give them something to think about." Ramick, who could fight as easily as he could do a math problem in his head, nodded with understanding. "It's all about power, man. Sometimes it just feels good, you know, the rush that you get when you're connecting with somebody's gut or when you're getting away with something wrong. You feel me?" Samson asked. "Yeah, man, I know what you're talking about," Ramick replied. The talk faded as the night air got chilly and they headed to their homes. Samson remembered that conversation well a few weeks later when he walked with a friend named Frank down Ludlow Street on a rainy night. They passed by what used to be Twin City Skating Rink, once known as the hottest rink in Newark. Roller skating was a big deal back then, guys. People had traveled from all parts of Newark to be part of the skating crowd. It was only a block away from the Dayton Street projects. "Too bad they closed the skating rink," Samson said with a sigh. "Good music, slick skates, plenty of fine girls hanging around too." "Yeah, man, but the police got tired of breaking up fights or taking reports from kids who got beat up or got their stuff stolen. If it wasn't for the bus, lots more kids would have been tromped by the Dayton Street boys," Samson replied with a laugh. "You know, lots of them spent their days waiting in front of the rink, spotting targets to attack and rip off. Well, you know Newark. You stay on your side of town, everything will be fine. You come over here to the skating rink, you get your butt beat. It's just the way it is." Frank shrugged. "After that murder last year, there was no way they'd keep the skating rink open," Samson said. "Too bad," he repeated. A man who looked vaguely familiar walked up to the two of them. "Hey, man, let me hold $2, he said to Frank. "I don't got it," Frank replied. "Man, I know you got $2. Don't play with me. Give me the money." "I don't got it," Frank repeated loudly this time. Without another word, the stranger, who was wearing a black goose-down jacket, lifted up his shirt and pulled out a gun. Samson tensed, ready for whatever he would have to do. "What about you?" the man asked. "I know you got $2. Very calmly, Samson replied, "I ain't got it, man." Samson knew firsthand that many people in the neighborhood were desperate and wouldn't think twice about taking his life. "What if I shoot both of you?" the man asked them angrily. "I could shoot you right now." Samson and Frank said nothing, but turned and walked away. Samson waited for bullets to slice through his back, but he heard nothing but his thudding heart and the falling rain. Samson thought back to the days of his kung fu lessons with Reggie. It all seemed so simple then. Forget about outside problems, Reggie had said. Concentrate your thoughts on a positive flow of energy. But Samson knew he needed more than a positive flow of energy to escape angry men with guns. He felt trapped. Several weeks later, January 19th to be exact, Samson was celebrating his birthday with some friends. They decided the best way to do that was a little beer and a little liquor. Remember, they're underage for both these things. They drove around Newark looking for a place to park and get right. "New man, it's your birthday," a dude named Hawk said. "Light up and let's celebrate together." He gave Samson a package of what appeared to be cocaine. Word up, Samson replied, not committing himself either way. Hawk suggested, "Let's make a woolly." Samson knew what a woolly was. He watched as Hawk took the tobacco out of a regular cigarette and then mixed it with the cocaine. He then wrapped the loaded cigarette back into its paper. Hawk lit it and then passed it to the guy sitting closest to him. The dude took 2 puffs, then zonked out. His head bounced against the back of the car seat. Hawk then offered it to Samson. "It's your birthday, man. We love you, man. You go now." Samson hesitated. Even the smoke from the thing was making him feel dizzy. "Nah, man, that ain't me," he declared. Samson wasn't tempted to do drugs the way many of his friends were. He'd seen too much destruction and devastation in their lives because of drugs. He didn't like the feeling of being out of control. "What's up with that? You think you're better than us?" Hawk replied angrily. "Nah, dog, I'm just too faded right now," Samson said. "Besides, you know I don't get high." They didn't like it, but they backed off, mostly because very soon all of them were too high to care. Samson jumped out of the car and left them there, glad to be able to breathe fresh air and celebrate his birthday with a clear head and a clean conscience. It was hard for him. He knew his options were limited. He was reaching a point in life where the despair and negativity were threatening to take over his life. A few months later, on a hot summer day, Samson and a guy named Spud were kicking on the corner. They were dressed like most boys in the neighborhood, jeans, sneakers, and white tank tops. The two of them had been friends ever since they were in Miss Davis's 3rd grade class together and played the same Pop Warner football team. Summer days were long and summer programs didn't exist, so the two of them were left with lots of time and nothing to fill it. "Hey man, I got a way for us to make some money," Spud said. "What you got in mind?" said Samson. "Put up some cash, we'll get some crack, and then we'll split the profits. Easy money, big money." "Sounds good, man, but I don't know. I want to get caught up in no drug stuff." Samson replied. "It's not like the drugs will dry up and die if you don't participate, man," so Spud told him. "Yeah, you got that right," Samson said. He sure could use the money, and it would be nice to help his mother and family. Finances were tight around the house. His mother was always struggling to pay the mortgage, to keep the electricity on, to feed all the children. "Don't worry about it. Everybody's doing it, man," Spud said. "Come with me tonight to Harlem. I'll show you how it's done." Samson agreed, and late that night the two of them took a train all the way uptown to Harlem in New York City. They brought a girl with them so they wouldn't look too suspicious. They walked to an apartment where a man stood in the doorway wearing a gun in a holster. He patted them down, like Samson had seen cops do on the street. They entered a tiny room inside the house. It was filthy. Bags of drugs were piled on the tables. Men with large guns stood all around, ready to shoot in an instant. To Samson, it looked like a scene from a movie. Spud and Samson passed their money to the men. In return, they were given a plastic bag of crack cocaine. This was the first time that Samson had ever picked up drugs. As they stepped out of the house, Samson looked up and noticed the misty rain glinting in the streetlight. "What have I gotten myself into?" he thought painfully. "Easy score," Spud said, seemingly unaffected by the horror of the situation. "Hey man, I'm out of here," Samson said suddenly. "You take all the money, all of it. It ain't me." Instead of complaining, Spud just shrugged. "Catch you later, man." With that, he disappeared into the night. Samson went home relieved that once more he'd been able to navigate that delicate road between what was right and what was real. Okay, now we have a part about Ramick in 11th grade. "Yo man, what's up with this? How come there's no Black history classes taught at this school?" Ramick asked the history teacher as he flipped through the pages of their American history book. "All I see in here is white folks." "We teach the history of all Americans, Ramick," the teacher replied carefully. "We try very hard to be culturally diverse in our approach." "Where?" Ramick asked bluntly. "I see a picture of some slaves, and 300 pages later I see Martin Luther King Jr. Didn't anybody Black or Hispanic do anything important in all that time?" The teacher changed the subject, saying it was time for class to begin, but Ramick seethed inside. He had recently helped organize a group at school called the United Students Organization, with Ahi and Amari Baraka, sons of the famous poet Amari Baraka, and another student named Hassan. The USO met regularly, not to cause trouble, but to try to work within the school and the community to make changes. George and Samson went to meetings occasionally, but Ramick, always questioning, was one of the leaders. "Our history book should reflect our history," Ahi said. And we need more money in this school, Hassan added with passion. Why do they always have to cut the budgets of schools in the city? Suburban kids have swimming pools and tennis courts and carpet in the halls. We have leftover desks and old books and equipment. We deserve better. We ought to walk out, Remick suggested one meeting. And what would that good would that do, George asked, except get us in trouble? But Ahi seized the idea. If just a few of us walk out, you're right, we would get in trouble. But suppose we all walk out, the entire school, he asked excitedly. Remick grabbed his excitement. Suppose we get other schools in Newark to walk with us. They would have to pay attention to us. It would have to be well organized, Ahi said. We need flyers and coordinators and troubleshooters. We can do this. The USO worked for weeks organizing the walkout. It was to be peaceful, yet powerful. Remick, George, and Sampson all participated in the planning. On a cool morning in April, at exactly the same time, hundreds of students from University High School quietly walked out of the building. They spilled onto the sidewalks and into the street. Some walked, some drove, some took buses to the Board of Education headquarters in downtown Newark. The buses and streets grew more crowded as, amazingly, students from Shabazz, Central, and other high schools joined the protest. They locked arms and chanted, "We shall overcome." The police showed up and tried to stop them, but there were too many students to arrest. Besides, the students were peaceful, well-behaved, and focused on their goal. Traffic was snarled as hundreds and hundreds of students marched toward the building. "We want to speak to the superintendent," Hassan and Ahi demanded of the timid-looking secretary who came out to greet them in the front of the building. "We have legitimate concerns, and we respectfully request a meeting to discuss them." The secretary scurried back inside with the message. Of course, the superintendent refused to come out of his office. Students grew impatient and began pushing. A surge of students moved forward and they entered the lobby of the building. They sat down and refused to move until someone came out to speak to them. Hassan, the loudest and most outspoken, was arrested for disturbing the peace. Eventually, the superintendent, an assemblyman, and a state senator showed up and spoke to the crowd, but the students' requests were not addressed specifically or seriously. Hours passed. Gradually, students began to leave. They had jobs to get to or family responsibilities. "I gotta go," Remick. George said, "I can't miss work tonight." "Do what you gotta do, man." "I'm staying," Remick said with a smile. "It just feels right, you know?" "I'm out of here too, man," Sampson said. "Good luck." Remick and about 50 others refused to leave the lobby of the building that night. The police set up a guard, more to protect them than to detain them. Someone ordered them pizza. A parent brought blankets, but the students stayed the night, emphasizing the importance of their demands. The next morning, they went home, feeling victorious. Over the next few weeks, a committee was formed to develop the first curriculum at University High School that included African American and Hispanic history. Remick was a hero at school and was even on the news briefly. He felt good about himself and what he had accomplished, but that did not stop him from getting into trouble. He didn't like his biology teacher. Something about the woman made him want to push her buttons. He'd ask questions in class that he already knew the answers to and do everything she asked in class not to do. "Remick, you forgot about that these lab reports must be turned in with writing only on the front of the paper. You wrote on both sides." "Saving trees," Remick responded, a devilish smile on his face. "You'll have to do it over if you want to get credit for it," the teacher whined. "That would waste even more trees," Remick said innocently. "Besides, every single answer on that paper is correct. Check them out." "I refuse to grade a paper that has not been done according to the rules," the teacher insisted. Remick shrugged, balled up the assignment, and tossed it into the trash can. "Satisfied?" he asked. George and Sampson watched from their seats, laughing. The teacher tensed but said nothing else. Remick sat for the rest of class, ignoring her, earphones on his head, as he listened to music. The teacher did her best to ignore him too. A couple days later, Remick had skipped a class and was roaming the halls with George and Sampson. The trio spied a 7th grade boy walking toward them. The kid carried a can of silly string in his hand. "What be that?" Remick demanded. "You want to get in trouble?" He was much bigger than the kid, and the very presence in the hall of a group of juniors was enough to make the boy toss the can to Remick and scurry away in the other direction. Remick laughed and tossed the can from George to Sampson with no particular purpose in mind. Suddenly he said, "Let's go see the biology teacher." They ran down the empty hall to the teacher's room and then knocked on her locked door. The door opened, and the teacher stood there staring at the three friends. "What do you want?" she asked, seemingly angry that she had been interrupted. Without a word, Remick raised his hand, pushed the button on the aerosol can, and sprayed a sticky web of bright pink silly string up, down, and across the astonished teacher's face. In confusion, the teacher turned to her class. They cracked up, falling out of their chairs with hysterical laughter. The teacher was humiliated and furious, and Remick, knowing he had gone too far, disappeared down the hall. "Remick Hunt, please report to the principal's office," the loudspeaker announced. Remick slipped into the office and held his breath while the principal yelled at him for being stupid, insubordinate, and thoughtless, all of which Remick knew was true. You're suspended from school as of this moment, Ramick. Indefinitely, he added. You mean it can't come back, ever? Ramick asked in disbelief. He thought about all his mother and grandmother had sacrificed for him, about the loss of friends, about how he really did like learning things. He slumped down the hall and out of the door. In the days that followed, the teacher developed an allergic reaction to the chemical in the silly string and threatened to file criminal charges. The superintendent upheld Ramick's expulsion, and a final hearing was held. Ramick, dressed in suit and tie and armed with an apology, waited to see his future crumble. When asked to make a statement, Ramick stood and spoke. He looked directly at the teacher. I'm really sorry for what I did. I wasn't thinking about consequences. Sometimes I do that. My mouth or my hands go off before my brain gets involved. Actually, I really like biology. I love science and it's easy for me. I don't know what else to say except that I'm really, really sorry, and I hope that one day you can forgive me. The teacher, whose face was slightly swollen from the chemical reaction, said nothing and looked the other way. Ramick sat down, sure he was doomed to roam the streets of Newark, another dropout with nothing to do. Then the teacher asked to speak. Inwardly, Ramick groaned. She walked with dignity to the front of the room. She did not look at Ramick, but spoke directly to the superintendent of Newark schools, the same man that Ramick and his friends had made demands of just the weeks before. Don't expel him, she said quietly. Ramick looked up in surprise. He's an overenthusiastic teenager. Yes, he's thoughtless and foolish, but he's also one of the brightest students I have. Let him come back to school. Ramick could not believe his ears. The superintendent, after a long and thoughtful deliberation, decided to listen to the teacher. Ramick was allowed to return to classes, a thankful, quieter, more cooperative student, at least for a while.